Welcome to Migrating IP Configuration to Windows Server 2012. This very brief demonstration will show us how we can take IP configuration data from a server running an earlier version of Windows Server, in our case Windows Server 2008 R2, and move that configuration to a new member server running Windows Server 2012. Migration of IP configuration data is a necessity for the migration of some server roles to Windows Server 2012, including DHCP server, DNS server, and ADDS. We're going to show you how we can move those particular settings across to a brand new server in preparation for migrating the role itself. To perform the migration of IP data from our Windows Server 2008 R2 source system, we will first check our IP data, and you can see we are 10.0.10.12. We're going to use the Migration Tools command shell applet, and we'll use export SMIG server setting minus IPconfig, and then a path to where we want our migration store. Once that is complete, we will perform an IPconfig and export that to a text file, because we will need to map the MAC address of the source server to the MAC address of the destination NIC in the Windows Server 2012 box that we want to match these up to. As we can see, we run the export SMIG server setting command, and we use a verbose switch here so that we can see exactly what is being migrated into the migration store that gets created in the file system as a result of this command. You'll notice also that when we attempted to execute this particular commandlet, it asked us for a password. Now this password is important because without this password we cannot decrypt that migration store at the other end when we're attempting to import this IP configuration into our destination server. The process does take a little bit of time, but with the verbose switch you can see exactly what it's exported there. As we can see, we now take the IP config data and put it into a separate text file. Now in our case, we've created a migration data folder at the root of the C drive, so we will just move that and copy that entire folder across to our destination server, which in this case is the server called Member running Windows Server 2012. Now that we've copied that across to the destination server, we can now go across to that server and migrate its IP data across. Before we do migrate across on our Server 2012 box, we will disable this network adapter to avoid any IP conflicts after the migration. On our destination server, which is running Windows Server 2012 with the name of Member, we're just running an IP config here so we can take a note of the MAC address that we're intending to migrate to. Now that we've done that, we will open up our migration tools, which we can get to from the Start menu. And from here, we will execute the import SMIG server setting command utilizing the IPconfig switch, and you can see here the source MAC address that we've used and the target MAC address that we're using on this machine. Very similar to the previous exercise, we provide our password, and it will then take all of the information in the migration store and move it across to this particular server. What we'll see after this is completed is if we go to the properties of our network card, it will have the exact same IP configuration as the source server had before we began the migration. We of course will not cause any IP conflicts as part of this process, because we have at the end of the initial exporting process disabled the network card. Once this is completed, we'll be able to see exactly the same IP information on this particular server. You can see here that it has completed, and if we go to our adapter settings, you'll see the expected IP address of 10.0.10.12 is now resident on this server, and we are ready to migrate whichever workloads are needed. Thank you.